Hello and welcome to LexLocal. I'm your host, Rick Dorrington. In our top story, the Serious Talks curriculum in Lexington elementary schools. The program teaches students about diversity, inclusion, and gender identity. This summer, an online petition created by concerned Lexington parents asking for your help was posted asking residents to, quote, stop the implementation of the Serious Talks curriculum for the 2023-2024 school year and request time and space for the entire community to engage in discussions, review, and approve the content that will be taught to our children. Now, over 1,700 people signed the petition. It was followed up by a postcard sent out to all residents asking for them to show up to the August 29th school committee meeting to voice their concern. And, well, they showed up. Hundreds of people attended the meeting, enough to fill an overflow room. Here are just some of the comments made by parents.
What I keep hearing is, we don't object to the curriculum, but can we do something at a more appropriate age? And my answer is, what's inappropriate? What's inappropriate about teaching that people look different, act different, live differently at any age? I would hope that that would happen. We shouldn't have to have it, but we do. We do have to have it. Our society, better than it was when I was growing up, but it's still not in a place where, as adults, when we meet and greet people who look different or worship differently or eat differently, that they're accepted universally, and that's a shame.
School committee is portraying this as sort of a political agenda that the parents have, and I really resent that because it's not a political agenda. It's a personal feeling that this kind of gender identity should be taught by parents and the family.
I'm here to support the work LPS is doing in the Serious Talks curriculum, a program my children experienced in an early iteration and one I am pleased to see has grown beyond the Bowman Halls. Quite simply put, I believe this curriculum is critical for all young people, and with each passing day, the news confirms that it's actually life-saving work.
We are very much in acceptance of the LGBT community. We have many people in our family who are part of that community. However, given the current Serious Talks that happened with my second grader, well, in first grade, we are now having an identity crisis because there was no talk about the fact that girls can be tomboys, that girls can like things that are blue or green. It was the way the curriculum was presented, I feel, was not age appropriate. I feel like there needs to be a conversation had about the fact that girls and boys can like things, whether that's pink or blue, and I think it needs to be handled in a much better way. So I would like to know the national statistics on how many places this curriculum has been taught and why LPS thinks that it's the best curriculum.
We're not talking about whether these topics should be included in the curriculum. We're talking about when they should be included. I'm still not convinced that some of our youngest kids are ready. I have a first grader, and I think we should work together on options for parents who, like me, feel that their kids are not ready and have an opt-out option for us.
We also spoke to Chair of Lex Pride, Valerie Overton, and PTO President and Parent, Andrew Harris, here in studio. We wanted to get their thoughts on Serious Talks.
The reality is that people of all of these identities exist. Yeah. So that's just incontrovertible. The fact is that people of all these identities exist. And so I think it's up to the schools to teach facts and to acknowledge the existence of all of these kinds of identities and to expect respectful behavior and for us to engage in civil discourse across our differences. I don't think the schools are asking us to agree on everything. We can disagree about all kinds of things, about our belief systems, our opinions, and that's okay, it's healthy. And at the same time, we can acknowledge the existence of all kinds of people and treat people with respect.
The parents that I've talked to that have concerns, and I've spoken to many through my role as a PTO president here in town, I think that their concerns are that they're talking about stuff like body parts, they're talking about stuff like sex education, and that's not what this curriculum is. So I think for parents to really start to feel comfortable, they need to start to understand what the curriculum is. So I think the schools are putting concerted efforts into sharing out these lessons. There's going to be a lot of communication with parents when there's a lesson coming out. My daughter, I actually just got my first email from my daughter's teacher talking about the lesson that they were going to have today. It's the first serious talk. They're talking about identity. So today they were going to talk about their names. So that's the first context that they had. They were going to talk about their names, where they got them, how it relates to their family. And I got an email about that, and I'll keep getting emails like that. So I think if parents have concerns or questions, I think reaching out to teachers and asking what's going on. I think reaching out to other folks. I'm very happy and eager to have conversations with people, look at the curriculum and help them understand kind of what's in it and what's not.
You know, as a member of Lex Pride and also from my own experience, you know, growing up, what we saw is that there was an absence of communication about people of all different identities, and not just sexual orientation, romantic attraction, but and gender identity. Lots of other identities too. We have been white-centric, and we have been ableist-centric and so forth in our education over time. And that creates a feeling of exclusion. And it creates a foundation where distrust, fear, hatred, violence, bullying can happen. And so what we have seen is that children and who are themselves LGBTQ, their families and others, have been on the receiving end of slurs, of hate speech, of bullying behaviors, of violence in our schools here in the past, and also, you know, certainly as long as I've been alive.
Yeah, I'd really hope to see all of the kids really feel welcome in their school and accepted for all of the parts of themselves that are visible and invisible. And then on top of that, I really hope that through this we can also build a more understanding and accepting community in Lexington as a whole. I do think that there is a really cool opportunity for people to learn something about folks that aren't the same as them, and build their own acceptance and their own tolerance and their own love for their own community.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, when I think about it, I think that Lexington Public Schools, like all schools, they're charged with nurturing each and every child's potential to their full potential, right? Nurturing the development of each and every child to their full potential. And in order to do that, children need to feel safe. They need to feel like they belong. They need to feel like they're being reflected in what they see, and they're learning about all kinds of other people as well. And that's part of like an honest, inclusive, and accurate education. And so I think that that is really what we're hoping for, is to have that accurate, inclusive, honest education that will help our students thrive and succeed in life and build a kinder community.
Superintendent of Lexington Schools, Dr. Julie Hackett, agreed to sit down with us to address parents' concerns directly and clear up some potential confusion about what's in the Serious Talks curriculum. We know the community is interested, so we decided to include the whole interview.
The Serious Talks curriculum is something that we've been doing for a few decades now. Actually, it's been in development for a few decades and been implemented for at least 10 years. It's a series of about 20 or so lessons that teachers teach children on things like identity, how to be kind, how to be a member of a community, who is your community, and so forth. It's been around for a long time. I think it's become more of an issue because we have some national conversations happening related to what we teach in schools. Some interest, I think, by parents in other states in particular about having a greater voice in the curriculum. So I think some of the politics have made their way to Lexington, which is fine. I think it's a really good opportunity for the community to talk about very difficult things. Through the years, the curriculum's developed, so depending on who is a member of a teacher's community, things may change. So if there is a child with two moms or two dads, or a child who is transgender, the classroom teacher may deliver lessons to make sure that every member of our school community feels valued and accepted. The training is important. When we teach around diversity, equity, and inclusion, there are things that people have to know. We have to learn about history. Teachers have to make sure that people in their classroom community feel safe. And there are some ways that we offer professional learning to get at that. The curriculum actually started at Bowman many years ago, and the Bowman teachers developed it with support from outside experts. So that expertise grew in the system, and actually when I came to Lexington in 2018, one of the activities that we were doing is building our strategic plan and sort of engaging the community in what matters most and what is the future direction of our schools for the next 10 years. Through that process, I heard over and over again about serious talks at Bowman with community members and community groups expressing interest about taking it to scale. So they would say, why is it only at Bowman? Why can't it be in other schools? Why can't my child access that curriculum as well? And even in fact this year we had parents calling in and requesting to have their child attend one of the schools that does the curriculum. So it's been around for a while. We have grown the curriculum to 2 other school communities. It used to only be exclusively at Bowman. It's now at Estabrook and Harrington in pockets. And kind of the irony of all this is we're working on a larger pre-K-12 DEI curriculum, which would mean that the 3 pilot sites where Serious Talks exists would be rolled up into a larger curriculum that would happen in every school, which would, I think by necessity, improve communication around it, help people understand what we're teaching and why, give parents an opportunity to learn more, express concerns, share what they like about it, and so on. There's a large body of work on what we should be teaching children and when. One resource we rely heavily upon is the Safe Schools initiative through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So we've consulted with the director there. There is some subjectivity to it, so I do think it's a fair question about how early is too early, when do we teach it, what are the aspects that make us or help us make those decisions, and much of it to a large extent depends on who's in the classroom with the teacher. So there's flexibility, but certainly a body of work that supports helping children understand the world in different ways. There's no opt-out provision because this isn't health education. So there's a provision under Mass General Law which allows people to opt out of the sexuality health units, which probably many of us are familiar with from our past. That is more recognizable. And the problem with the request about opting out is that it's so integrated into the fabric of what we do in social studies, in health, in any number of subjects that it would be really impossible to opt out. If you're talking about you're this little person and you're a member of a classroom that has maybe 20 children in it, and part of the lesson is who's in your community, how are you teaching fairness, acceptance, kindness of all religions, races, genders, identities, then how do you say, okay, today you're not going to talk about that? You can't say today you're not going to talk about it because you are who you are as a member of this little community. So it's integrated in ways that would make it somewhat impossible for people to opt out. And the law supports the no opt-out provision. I know some people cite the law and say this is my right, and certainly parents have rights and choices and things of that nature, but unless we're talking about sex ed and health curriculum, that provision doesn't apply. When we think about what we teach, and I do know that there's a fear by some that it might cause an indoctrination of their child, but if we think about it from the perspective of teaching about different religions and different belief systems and think about whatever faith you bring to a classroom community. For example, just because you're learning about the Muslim faith doesn't mean that you're going to change your own faith. It just means you understand and have an awareness of the world, and you have the ability to do some perspective taking that's healthy as this world that we're in grows increasingly more diverse and complex. When I hear stories about people talking about their child's individual experiences, my mom mode kicks in, and I say, give that child privacy and discretion, and that's a conversation at home when there are questions about gender and identity. I feel I think that it is a different world. I'm always fascinated to talk to kids about what's on their minds, and feel really old whenever I do, as I imagine some other people in the community may too. It's different, it's changing, and I think what is beautiful about this generation is that they can question assumptions and have a deep sense of who they are as individuals, and that didn't exist whenever I went to school, and in ways that are healthy. So I feel like the kids are always way ahead of us. The kids sort of lead the way, and our job as educators is to respond to the world that's changing and see it through their eyes and help them feel valued and secure and psychologically safe in what they do. My hope for the Serious Talks curriculum is that it would teach everybody to understand that they have a place in our community, that we love them for who they are, that their job is to do the same for other people, and their job is to think critically also, and question and just support one another and be part of what we say in our mission, which is joy in learning, curiosity in life, and compassion in all we do.
You can rewatch the entire interview with Dr. Hackett and the August 29th school committee meeting on the LexMedia.org on-demand site or the LexMedia TV YouTube channel. We'll be right back. Thank you. Big news out of Minuteman High School. As you know, LexMedia has been following the controversy surrounding Superintendent Dr. Kathleen Dawson, and it was just announced that she was resigned after coming to an agreement with the school committee. An investigation took place after the allegations of inappropriate interactions with students and staff. However, there were no findings of sexual harassment by Dawson. Many parents were unhappy with the school committee for even hiring her. They made their opinions clear at several public school committee meetings last year.
And I'm going to tell you, we are angry with you. The fact that you people continuously, unanimously approve every vote you take means you are not listening and having proper debate.
And my question to the school committee is that, and I'm going to say, when you find another superintendent to do a much better job.
As a result, several communities that send students to Minuteman, including Lexington, have assigned a new representative to the committee. Sharon Musto is hopeful everyone can just move on from the controversy.
I'm really excited about being able to be a current parent on the school board. I'm really excited about the fact that I bring my 30 years of special education background. I also think that in my previous job, I was a public school liaison, so I've got a lot of experience sort of meeting with different people from different districts and navigating some uncomfortable conversations at times where people have different desires for the outcome, and being able to sort of mediate and navigate that and help people see other perspectives. And so I'm really hoping that my focus on communication and perspective and my background in education will be a real plus to the school board. I'm very comfortable in the team of 9 that's on the school committee right now. I think that there's a lot of people with different backgrounds and are very passionate about Minuteman. And I think that from that first meeting, I can already see how well everybody's working together. So it's really kind of exciting. It's hard replacing somebody else on the school board who had a long-standing relationship with those people, because I don't want it to feel, it's not that I thought that I would be better or anything. It was just that I really wanted to be a part of the current solution, I guess. The teachers and the students are so passionate about what they do there. There's a real positive air in the building this year, and I'm not attributing that to anybody being there or not being there, but it just seems like things are in a good place at the moment, even though we still have this unresolved unknowns. But I also think I'm just really excited about, again, bringing my background as an educator and as a parent of a special education student and the students, I should say, and bringing that to help Minuteman just continue to grow. I'm excited about, we're now really out of the pandemic and in this new building, and things are continuing to grow, and looking for kind of what the future holds. I think it's exciting. I would really like to have there be either once a month or every 6 weeks or something, have some times where families from Lexington, if they want to touch base and share their thoughts, can do so, because I think it's really important that every school committee member keeps their finger on the pulse of what's happening every day, because that's, not that we're not micromanaging, not trying to run the school, but just to make sure that we know what's happening and we have the ability to take that information back to the powers that be if necessary, but more so just to know what's going on, because it's one thing to be working on, policy and looking at the future, but it's another thing to make sure that the people that are there are happy, because if they're not happy, then that spreads the word that it's not a great place to be, and then that negatively affects the future of the school.
Lexington continues to take steps addressing climate change. Maggie Peard, the town's Sustainability and Resilience Officer, joined us to explain the plan currently in the works.
A little over a year ago, the town started what we're calling Resilient Lexington, which is the Climate Action and Resilience Plan. And essentially it's laying a roadmap for what the town, including town government, but also residents and businesses, can do to make Lexington a more sustainable and more resilient place. So it's looking at where are our emissions coming from, where can we have the highest impact in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and also on the resilience side of acknowledging that we're facing a changing climate. How can we prepare our infrastructure, our people, to be prepared for those changes? This plan lays the groundwork for what are the key actions we have to take and who are the key players who will implement those steps. It was a combination of a lot of different kind of players who went into creating this plan. So we hired a consultant who really drove the development of the plan. They kind of kept us focused and did a lot of the more technical analysis, but we also pulled together a working group of town staff, town organizations, residents, the people who will really be implementing the plan. And then there was also a lot of community engagement. So I hosted presentations about the plan, focus groups to get input from residents we may not normally hear from, and things like public surveys to make sure we're capturing the priorities of everyone in Lexington. Ideas that were presented were really specific to Lexington and were representative of where we wanted to go. And then same thing happened in a future meeting looking at the actions themselves. So we had a list of potential actions, but then again, the working group really got more specific and showed, we've already done this, this isn't something we need to focus on, or let's push and be a little bit more ambitious in this area because I think it's somewhere we can get more traction. So I think as a result, the Resilient Lexington plan is not just a plan kind of produced by a consultant that could apply for any community. Instead, it's a really Lexington-specific plan that has the input from all of the various departments and staff and community members that are going to be part of the implementation. So essentially, the plan is asking how can Lexington achieve net zero emissions by 2050. So we are producing the amount of energy that we're consuming, essentially. to figure that out, we had what's called a greenhouse gas inventory, which looks at where are our emissions coming from. And then we look at the high impact strategies that can reduce the emissions to zero. So some of those really high impact areas are looking at buildings and energy, transportation systems, waste. So those are some of the highest impact areas to reduce emissions. And then also we were looking at resilience as well. So we also had focus areas on that were community resilience and natural resources. So how can we protect our people and the environments that we love in Lexington as well. So resilience is really looking at how can we bounce back from disasters and kind of be prepared for the unknown, whether that's flooding or high heat. So how can we set ourselves up to be prepared and even kind of bounce forward, not be set back whenever we have disasters coming through town. It's been great kind of starting this planning process at a time where Lexington is already doing a lot of this work. Facilities has done a lot of work to install solar on our town buildings. There we have what's called an integrated building design policy, which influences how all of our new municipal buildings are built. Essentially making them built to the highest standards of green building that we can achieve. So like our new police station will be a net zero building and have solar to offset. So there's a lot of work that's already been happening. The list kind of goes on, but I think it was exciting to, with this plan, look at where are we right now and what else still needs to be done. There's a lot in terms of kind of how it will affect residents. For any resident that's kind of looking for a way to become more involved, one of the key actions in the plan was creating an educational campaign, and that's something that's already underway in collaboration with the Lexington Climate Action Network. I've created a campaign called LexElectrify, and it's really trying to provide all of the resources for residents. There's a town website, www.lexingtonma.gov/LexElectrify, and you can find lots of links to different resources on that page.
It was time for celebration at Wilson Farm when its cycling team raised over $1 million to fight cancer by riding in the Pan Mass Challenge. They hosted an ice cream social and a touch or truck event for everyone to enjoy. We got some background on the significance of this milestone.
My name is Scott Wilson, and from Wilson Farm in Lexington here. We want to thank Julie and LexMedia for coming down, hanging out with us today on this gorgeous day. I am one of the owners and fourth generation of Wilson Farm since 1884. So I think the reason we're here today is to talk about the PMC, talk about Wilson's commitment to the PMC and to fighting cancer. It all began back in 2008 in October. My father passed away. And he was a huge part of everything that we've done on the farm for years and years and years. So it took us a year to sort of recover a little bit from his passing. And in 2010, we wanted to do something and give back a little bit. So we decided we'd join the PMC. We think it's just a phenomenal organization. So in 2010, we rode for the first time. And we thought we were doing really well. We raised about $70,000, I think, that year, which was for us awesome. We have 15 riders. We bump up to 16, down to 12, and we ride every other year as to not really put too much of a pinch on our customers and asking them every day if they donate to us, and our vendors. They've been so great over the years, to the point where now, this year, we're celebrating that we've raised over $1 million in 8 rides. Humbling to think that all of our customers, $1 at a time or more, have supported us, and all of our vendors have supported us. And you can see our Wilson Farm shirts here. We do that every 2 years, and our vendors and some of our contributors, our largest ones, are on there. Like my best friend and buddy Charlie Silva, who raises about $50,000 to $60,000 on his own for our team every year. So you know, it takes a army to make it happen, and the employees here have been phenomenal for so long. But specifically, kind of fun, because you guys were here at Ice Cream Fest, Ice Cream Social. We do 3 fundraisers every year when we're riding, and they're some of our most fun things we do, right? We do Strawberry Fest first, then we do Corn Fest, and then we do the Ice Cream Social, all to raise money for the PMC. And the Ice Cream Social you guys were at sort of was a new deal this year. We've always had antique cars here, but in particular this year, Promotions and my daughter Lauren Wilson came up with the idea of a touch-a-truck, and boy, we jumped on it, because what better place to do a touch-a-truck than Wilson Farm? We have loaders, and we have dump trucks, and we have tractor trailers. We have everything you could want to touch. And thankfully, the Lexington Fire Department also came down 2 days. So it was just like the greatest thing in the world. Sad part about it is I'm never here. I'm always riding my bike during the PMC, as is Lauren. We've done this ice cream social for at least 5 years or so, and none of us have made it the ride. So one of these years I'll look forward to being there myself. But it's a lot of fun because we send pictures to the people at the ice cream social from the ride, and they send pictures of the ice cream social to us and motivate us. So it's all good, but when it's all said and done, the most important thing, we had a lot of fun, but the most important thing is that we've raised, I think to date right now, over the last 8 rides and over being involved for 14 years with the PMC, $1,070,000. And that is tremendous. And this year was our biggest year ever. We went all out because we wanted to make that $1 million, and we raised about $270,000 this year. So all in all, a huge success, and a big thank you. Thank you to our community. Thank you for supporting us and for fighting cancer, because we're all touched by it.
I would also like to take this time to thank our student volunteer, Mira Krishnan, for helping us produce this story. There's a new art installation along the bike path. Terry Samaras was there for the unveiling.
LexMedia was invited down to the Minuteman Bike Path for a celebration of a new temporary public art exhibit called Lexington, A Sense of Place. Curated by Lori Bogdan and with the help of Steve Polterziski of the Lexington Art Council, Lexington, A Sense of Place has 6 sculptures created by local artists and architects. These imaginative and creative pieces take aspects of Lexington's architectural styles as their main source of inspiration.
So talking about my installation, I decided to call Home Sweet Homes. And basically what I wanted to do, invite the viewers through history to see the different architectural style they were in the houses in Lexington. So basically what you can see here is the different styles of the houses and also the period that these houses, that they belong.
What this sculpture really does is pay homage to ancient Greece and ancient Rome. It has features that you would find in temples and other structures from ancient times. It's no coincidence that Lexington has all of those features. You will see those repeated over and over again. Things like the pediment, fluted columns, the golden rectangle is within this. It's continuing to decay, and that's intentional. This expresses some fear that democracy is being undermined and is decaying.
This project was very, very important to our firm. Everyone had a role, and I'm not kidding, it was from procuring the windows. We took some out of people's attics. We found them at various yards, on eBay. I mean, there were just lots of ways that we found, and again, typifying the type of things that we saw here. It's the rich architecture, the history of transportation as it developed over time, are all these little views of what you would get in looking at the types of windows that you would find in town, in buildings here. Another famed person that I admire greatly is Robin Williams, who once wrote that there's a world out there. Open a window and it's there, and that's kind of what it is here.
This is our little birdhouse folly. Take a book, leave a book. When we first were presented with the idea of a proposal, it was a struggle to figure out how to involve this professional life with the artistic side of things that we do. To me, I was trying to find a way to use a kit of parts, which is architectural detailing and scale and proportion and understanding how those things can give an object a story. Now there's some cuteness and playfulness that we were hoping for, a bird that will probably never land on there, but it was an opportunity for some craftsmanship and for me to have fun making something by hand. The rest of it is actually 3D printed, jam-packed detail in there, things that make these historical homes so great. The lights in the windows, it's the layering of detail and little things here and there, and the curvature of cornices and crowns.
So when I was looking at the sites, I came across the brick house. It was called the brick house, pretty on the nose, but it was a trading post, and so everyone came through there, and it was a place where everything happened. And so I thought, how funny would it be to put a lot of little keyholes on an object that don't work? You can try to your heart's content and nothing will happen. And it's sort of a little joke, right? It's funny, it's a nonsensical object. But it's also relating to a place where everything comes together, where everyone goes, everyone needs to get in. And yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed learning more about Lexington's history.
For this piece, I combined a variety of recycled materials and objects to evoke different styles and designs of local structures as a way of capturing Lexington's diverse architectural traditions and periods, as well as to celebrate traditional New England materials such as wood and stone. While styles vary from era to era, colonial, Federalist, 19th century Victorian, 20th century modern, Asian, the materials often remain the same, as do the purposes: shelter, beauty, and inspiration. So that's it.
Lexington, A Sense of Place will be available for viewing until November, so get down there as soon as possible to see these terrific pieces.
For all of us here at LexMedia, thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Rick Dorrington. See you next time.